Hi folks. Well, we've had quite a bit of rain happening here over the last couple days. It seems like we got this tropical monsoon that's bothering us. The creek, as you can see, is flowing a lot heavier and higher than it would be normally. It's up now, for the past half hour because we had another downpour. Where I'm situated here, though, we don't deal too much with just general flooding, but flash flooding is the issue here. Because as you can see, the creek bed is close to the house and then the yard. So if it overflows the creek bed, the house has been flooded in the past. Yesterday morning, when this initially came through, we got about 6 inches of rain in just a couple of hours. And this creek was well out of its banks, at least on this side. It came over up the swing there, was had water underneath it. This part of the yard came through here under the bridge, but there was water there in the woodshed. And then as you travel down through here, most of that was underwater too. This used to be much worse of a problem here on the farm. I can remember as a kid growing up dealing with things like Hurricane Agnes, where we had 3 or 4 inches of water in the house and everything here was all underwater, and a few other storms after that. But what I've tried to do here, and I still have one major problem here, and that's this choke point with this old concrete bridge. As you can see, the water is just about up to it here. Yesterday morning it was about a foot over top of it flowing. Because it's just not what it should be as far as handling the amount of water that comes through here. As you can see, it washed all of the stone that was over the concrete. So once this monsoon season is over, I'll have to replace all the crushed stone. There was a little bit of damage, but not too bad. But as you can see, it's still flowing fairly heavy. And if it were to start pouring down, raining, and continue to, it wouldn't be very long till I'd be standing in the water that'd be over top of this bridge. This yard was underwater yesterday. That log came floating down and was over there. That log there was actually one piece. I cut it into 4 and it was laying right along the side here. So that's the kind of force that's going on behind this water. What I've also done is, just in case we get another bout of that till this monsoon thing is done, is I put some sandbags over there in the yard to kind of block that off to protect the house. Now what I've done too, in my efforts to alleviate the flooding problem here, are 2 things. First of all, I needed to raise the creek bank on the house side. I know there's no way I'm going to contain a flash flood in this creek bed. It's just too small. But what I can do is push any overflow away from the house instead of into it. Now in a normal summer, and this has been far from normal, in normal summer this creek dries up completely by about mid-July and stays completely dry until we start getting regular rain again in mid-September. When it's completely dry, I can get equipment in to work, and what I've done is I've channeled out the creek bed and piled it up onto that side of the bank to raise the elevation up. I'd done that a number of years ago, and I think it's been done twice. My ancestors used to do something like that before the year of backhoes. They had hand equipment to do that. But as you can see, what I've done is I've made that side higher than this side, so that if it does rise up, it will spill this direction away from the house and then just continue to flow down through. The second thing I've had to do, this bridge is about 6 years old, I think, maybe 7, 5, 6, or 7, I can't remember off the top of my head now. What used to be here was a concrete bridge, a concrete footbridge, and it was a whole lot lower to the creek surface than this one. And we had a series of storms, the late 2000s, 2010, something like that, that continued to damage it. They ripped it to pieces. The water would come up over it and push into the yard, and it tore pieces off. So it finally became unusable. So had a friend with a backhoe rip what was left of it out, and in its place I built this wooden bridge, and I managed to get it up higher. I wanted to get more access for the water to go underneath. And even yesterday when it was at its peak, it was still about 2 feet below this. So the bank on this side held, no problem, and the bridge was high enough. So those are two problems that I've resolved. I still have to get that lower bridge replaced by something much better, something sort of along this height, but also it has to be concrete so vehicles can drive over it. But I think if I can give more flow space when we have the flash flooding, we'll be okay here. We won't have to worry very much about the house getting flooded again. In my lifetime, that's probably happened 6 or 7 times over the years. But I'd like to stop that once and for all. And as long as I can maintain this creek bank here and it stays higher than the one on this side, then if it does overflow, it'll spill over this way and not cause any damage. And as long as I can keep bridges up higher, that the water has more room to flow underneath. I mean, this looks silly, this bridge, the height, when the water flow is normal. I mean, normally this creek is approximately maybe 2 to 3 feet wide and 6 inches deep, a normal flow. But not now, of course. And those big waterfall right there, those are large rocks that were pushed down. The kind of force that the water was pushed two or three huge rocks down. I could see the top of them when the water went down. So when we get back to a normal flow rate, I'll have to get down in the creek bed and pick the rocks and move them out. That's an ongoing thing. As you can see, I've worked along these creek beds to pile of rocks on the side. And anytime we get some high water, you do have an issue where rocks get pushed down. The force of the water is that strong. But compared to a lot of other people in my area, we are very fortunate. We're very blessed that we didn't have the damage they've had. Parts of our county to the west and the south have gotten far more of this rain than we did. And they've had some major flooding going on. What the heck's going on here, I don't know. Usually July is a very dry month, but we got about 6 inches of rain yesterday morning with that first bout, and I just looked at the rain gauge that I'd emptied about mid-morning yesterday, and now it was mid-afternoon when I looked at it again today, and it's full again. So we got another 6 inches. So we've had about a foot of rain in about a day and a half, and the National Weather Service is saying this trend is going to continue through today, through tomorrow, and into Thursday. So I don't know how much total rain we'll get. Again, I'm not too worried as long as it's not constant and it's not constant downpours. The pattern has been these showers will come through, the rain will come down very hard for maybe 15 minutes, a half an hour, and then it'll lighten up and then stop. It stopped right now. Even yesterday there were breaks of sun in between. But we just had another shower here maybe 45 minutes ago. It stopped maybe a half hour ago, and you can see the water came back up a bit. And the creek bed can handle. It's only when you get so much rain in a very short period of time that it can't. The ground here slopes enough that we don't have a lot of standing water right here. If we were at the very bottom, say, of the valley, once the ground got saturated, we'd be talking lots and lots of standing water with the amount that we've had. But since it is flowing away from us and it's emptying into the creek that's below us, there's a major creek down through the trees there, another 50 yards, that flows west. This is a tributary. So this is joining up with that, and it's carrying it away from us again downhill. So we're relatively safe here in that regard. So this is just another thing with living in the country. You've got to adapt to the changing weather conditions. This wasn't caused by a hurricane. This time we've had floods in the past that were hurricane related. This is just this tropical trough they're calling it has brought. And I've done what I can here practically to protect the house. This bridge is just for people to walk on. I mean, it holds the weight of several people, so it's strong enough as far as I'm content. It wasn't all that expensive to build. I think it maybe cost about $700-800 worth of materials. I originally had looked at the idea of perhaps getting an arched deck, and so I went to my local home improvement store and asked about pricing on getting trusses made, arched trusses to cover the span. And what they came back with was, given the span I needed and a practical, gently sloping arch, they came back with a figure of $1,000 for 3 trusses. And they weren't even pressure treated. The company didn't use pressure treated wood in their prefab trusses. So I thought, well, that's crazy. I'm not going to spend that much money on just part of the bridge. So what I ended up doing is I got 2x8s and made my own kind of trusses. They come straight out, as you can see, and then they arch down this way, and then I have them bolted together. It's not the most beautiful design, but it's strong enough to hold, and it's held for a number of years. I have 3 of them across, and I keep trying to keep them painted so that they won't rot out. The bridge decking here is just basically decking boards, the 5/4 decking boards that I cut to size and screwed in place with galvanized deck screws. The railing's just 2x4, pressure treated 2x4s. So it wasn't a bad project to do. It took some time. On either end, I dug down and put a concrete footer to anchor each end of the bridge to, so that it would be held in place well beyond the level of the bridge, of the creek, so that it wouldn't wash out, and it's held pretty firm. Again, it's not anything going to win an architectural award, but it does the job for us to be able to walk across the bridge. I have no trouble wheeling wheelbarrows full of firewood. In the wintertime, as you can see, the wood shed is right there, so that's no problem. I can bring them across in the wintertime. We can push the push mower across to mow other yards if we need to, and of course people walking. So it served the purpose that we needed, and yet it's still up high enough, like I said, that even with heavy rains, it's still above where the water level is. I don't really worry about it getting washed away. If we ever get a mega flash flood here, it will take this bridge away. I know it will, but hopefully that won't happen in my lifetime. Hopefully I'll be rebuilding this bridge before I'd have to worry about that. But for right now, we're enduring this monsoon and just keeping an eye on the creek levels to make sure that we're safe. As you can see, we have no cars parked over in there. Because of the concern with the lower bridge, we've parked the cars on this side of the creek so that we can get out if we need to, should that bridge go out. Hopefully that won't happen, but if it should, we're okay. We can survive. So country living means you work with nature even when nature doesn't want to cooperate. So here we are, and we're doing the best we can, and like I said, we're in far better shape here than many people in our area are with this most recent flooding. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel.